like to do some program updates on these 4 categories: networking, training, research, and advocacy. These correspond to certain of the really key aspects of our strategic plan, which runs from last year until 2025. So sort of overlaps this next period of partnership with NAMA. And so one of the themes in this is that partnership is more than just 1 + 1 = 2. What's been happening is that, in fact, our organizations coming together has created even more value for both. So that's been, I think, something important to underline. So in the first category of networking, and it's because I'm not clicked on. Need to be clicked here. There we go. Now we're good. Networking, first of all, isn't that a nice looking group of people? Networking, we've successfully had a number of either small group meetings. I've had the privilege of meeting many of you in your various ports. I've also brought together some of the regions, North American region, for example, in the NAMA group. Had a number of not only North Americans, but also those from different other regions. Thank you very much for Sarah for representing the global group at the NAMA conference. But these times of networking are again more than just a time to have people in the same room, and it's more also than just sharing information. But there's the whole aspect of encouragement and the kinds of things that we did at lunch and dinner last night, where you can simply share not only some information about what's happening in your society, but also get encouragement for what you do. Seafarers missions, as you might know, maybe you know this personally, can sometimes be lonely. You feel quite far away from perhaps other chaplains, but even far away from other clergy. If you're a clergy person working in your local area, they might not understand quite what you do and how you do it. Takes a lot of reminders to others, just that your work is slightly different. So getting together and networking together has this impact. All of us also are feeling the impacts of these big global concerns of the internet, of certain of the political movements in the world, of all of those other big issues. And so sharing best practices amongst each other is so useful. So networking is one of our key priorities, and I'm happy that you're here together with us. On that same level, and what Sarah mentioned as well, is that we try to pass out as much information as we can. If you have news that you'd like to share or get feedback on, please share it with me. Every month I send out this ICMA newsletter. If you're not on the newsletter, you can go on the ICMA.as website, and then there's a little bar to sign things up. It's important to know that we're regulated by GDPR also in the UK as a UK-based charity. So I cannot simply go out and sign up all the people of the world onto this newsletter as I wish, but it needs to be people who sign themselves up, who willingly choose to sign up to this newsletter. We have 500 or 600 names, which is not very many, but what's important is we get really good engagement with those people, because they're people that, like yourselves, who really want to be on that mailing list. And it's not just a random list of perhaps people who might be interested in this. But if you could help me with one particular thing, if you could share with your members, with your chaplains, with board members, with others who might wish to get this, and say, this is a newsletter that's useful, please sign up to it, that would be very, very useful to our work to get those names. We try to share every month about 10 different stories, a few stories that have to do directly with ICMA work, and then usually 5, 6, 7 stories from different organizations. Usually Google Translate is my friend for these. If it's in Finnish or Swedish or Norwegian or German or something, then I can still put it, at least the blurb gets put in English, and people can use Google Translate after that. But what's amazing is there's just, sometimes we feel small and abandoned and that no one's listening. But when I go online, there are so many stories in news reports, in research reports and other reports about seafarers missions, that really all of us can be quite encouraged that there is news about us and things being shared. And likewise, we're active on Facebook and a few other platforms. Facebook is one among many other social media platforms. I don't have unlimited time, so I'm not going to make TikTok videos and whatnot. But if some of you want to be TikTok ICMA stars, then please contact me and we can work together. I'm very happy to share any of your work. I try to share equal opportunity sharing of different clubs and different languages in different places. So I'm happy to know what you're doing and share what you're doing with others. On the second level of training, I think this is the really big and important development of this year is our growth in training. Through the years of the pandemic, it was impossible to get together in person. And now I've seen a real thirst, a real hunger for more training and having more things available. This was our group, a fantastic group that was in Manila earlier this year. This is the Ahoy training, and the Ahoy training is an immersion training that helps understand a sort of an intense way of understanding Filipino seafarers, understanding their culture, understanding the different levels of government they have to deal with, what life in Manila is like. Manila is not the place where all the seafarers live, but basically they have to pass through it, and it's a pain for many seafarers to know that. So when they're going home on vacation, what we need to remember really is that Manila often is a few weeks of that so-called vacation, where they need to go to medical checkups or do trainings or stay in some dormitory that's perhaps not a 5-star hotel in that area. So we went for a week, lots of people representing, some of you are in this room, aren't you, a beautiful group? We had a great group representing a huge number of ICMA missions. We got great financial support for this course. 2 other courses, I'm very happy to say and sad to say, depending on what side of the coin you're on. Both of these courses are now basically parallel. This is the ICMA course, which is happening in Hamburg for 1 week. The other one is the NAMA course, which is happening in Houston for 1 week in February. The good news is they are completely full. So we have 25 students for both courses, which is actually more than really what we can handle for both courses. And I have a waiting list of 5 names or 5 or more names for both courses. There's a real interest in training, and I'm really happy to say that that's, I think, something that's really a developing field. I know a number of you have registered students for those, but it's been really good to see this movement in this area. So the good news is they're full. The bad news is they're full. That is, if there are new students, we don't have any more room, absolutely any more room in Houston. The whole hotel is full. In Hamburg, the whole hotel is full. In Houston, the whole classroom is full. So we can't deal with more students. What this means, however, is that if I do find another perhaps half dozen students, we'll probably need to schedule another course relatively soon. So if your society does have a few students already identified, we have the possibility of doing another course perhaps in the spring of 2024, perhaps April, May, or something like that in 2024. Please contact me if you are serious about sending these students, and I will we'll get right on planning these things. Courses, we try to keep the costs as minimal as possible. The NAMA course doesn't have any bursaries, but basically we do it at cost, the cost of the hotel rooms, plus you have to pay the travel. The ICMA course, in fact, we did get support from the ITS Seafarers Trust and the Seafarers Charity for this, so we have a small amount that we can give also for travel bursaries, but we try to keep the costs as low as possible. Online courses also have been very successful in the last number of years. This I share with the thanks to and support of the Merchant Navy Welfare Board. NAMA and the Merchant Navy Welfare Board created the Ship Welfare Visitor course online a few years ago, and these are some statistics of how that course has been used. What's interesting for me and for this group is that the vast majority of students, and again, thanks to the MNWB, the vast majority of students are from ICMA societies, So if you look at the pie chart, the original course was made in 2016. We had a few students that year, but then you can see the pie chart on the top is more or less how many students per year, what percentage of the overall students. Total students today are 1,031. It's a lot of students for this course. And in 2016, if we see the pie chart in the upper right, the top is 2016, and then the wheel goes around. You can see more or less it's about 200 if you make your visual calculation, something like 15%, give or take, of the overall number, 200 students or so a year. It's been really, from my perspective, and hopefully MWB thinks so too, it's been a really successful course. Again, the organizations using it: Sailor Society, ISWAN, MWB, NAMA, ICMA, Stella Maris, Mission to Seafarers. The societies with more ship visitors are using the ship visitor course more. And then sort of a global representation of where all of these students come from are in this graph. I think the China being lit up is not so much China but Hong Kong. But anyways, I won't. I won't question my automatically generated map, but it gives you a sense of where the students are from and where they're there. This course is available to all ICMA registered charities, and the way it works, and the really fundamental part of this course is not so much the content, but it's the supervision of the course. Students cannot get into this course without the endorsement of their society or without my endorsement as the ICMA representative for some of the smaller societies. But what we can do, and with the okay of the Merchant Navy Welfare Board, what we've done for a few of the societies is, rather than myself being the one that approves the access, your individual society could approve the access to get into this course. So what you do is the student registers. There's a 20 British pound fee, and that's mostly just a processing fee because you get a nice card at the end, a nice ship visitor card. Once they register, it needs to be signed off by someone from the society. So importantly, and this actually has happened relatively regularly, there are random ship visitors who want this card to say, "Hey, look at me, I'm a registered ship visitor," to go do my to do my thing. And they can't get into the course. So they need to have that society supervision. At the end of the course, they also need to do a few supervised ship visits. And so this sort of overall supervisory role in this course is really the heart of why this works. So it's not just a random, let's watch some videos and then I can go out in the port. But I'm endorsed by a society, and also I've been supervised by someone local. So that's the ship welfare visitor course. After that, there is also a training platform called Mare Training, which is hosted by NAMA, but most, again, of the students that are coming on are not just NAMA members, but ICMA members from around the world. One of the courses that's on here is the ICMA Crisis Preparedness Training. I think a few of you in this room even participated in the construction of that. We've had, I think, 70 or 80 students who have finished this module. When it was online on the old website, it was already broken before it even started. It was technology that didn't work very well. It was technology before its time, one might say. Now it's on a new website that just stays unbroken. It's a newer technology. If only we had this 20 or 30 years ago. So this is available. This is freely available to all ICMA members. We also have a number of other courses. The Ahoy courses that we created for the Ahoy training are introductions to Philippine seafarers, Philippines history and values. If you want to learn more about the Philippines in particular, in helping Filipino seafarers, there are these 6 wonderful modules that we created with especially ICMA member chaplains who are from the Philippines or have expertise in the Philippines. So please do take those. On the Ahoy course, you'll see on it there's a cost to it. You can pay it if you want to, but all ICMA members, if you contact me, you can get a coupon code to take those for free. So I put that there just so that, again, random people don't take the courses. I mean, if random people want to give us money, that's fine. But in this particular case, we want to prioritize ICMA people, and that seems to be working quite well. On these trainings, are there any questions or comments on the trainings? Anyone that would like to either have a question or comment, or is there any reflection on how these trainings have been useful for your personnel this year? Then sliding into the last few categories, research and then advocacy. Something I'm quite active in is in both doing research and supporting the research of others. I've been doing quite a bit with sort of both NAM and ICMA hat on of working on a Seafarers Welfare Board in Canada, and also doing research on work in my home country. So in Marine Policy Journal, a leading maritime academic journal, I published with the group a study, a gap analysis of seafarers welfare in Canada. There should be some follow-up studies to that, both in Canada, but also with some other researchers. I finished working with a group from IMHA, the International Maritime Health Association. A group of us published a reflection paper on seafarers vaccination, especially COVID vaccination, including sort of learning from all of your experience in doing those vaccination programs. Every year with NAMA and increasingly more ICMA material, I publish a magazine called the Mare Report. And the Mare Report is a magazine for seafarers welfare professionals. Any of you that would like to have a copy, it's online already, but I do have with me a few paper copies. Also, we published a book called Ship and Shore. A former chaplain working he's originally from the UK, but was living in North America, now living in France. He published this, and it's an introduction to An Insider Explains the Maritime World. I have a few copies of those. The last thing on this research, I keep an active bibliography of research on seafarers welfare and maritime ministry. Anyone who's doing research that has to do with seafarers chaplaincy, maritime ministry, seafarers welfare, health, that has to do with things like mental health, all sorts of things, I keep on this bibliography. I started it about 2 years ago, so I don't really have all that much before about 2 or 3 years ago. But since 2 years, I've been trying to be very active in keeping this up to date. So if you're looking for the latest research, primarily in English, that's what it's published in, but there's a lot of other languages as well. If you're looking for the latest research, at least this is my list of things that I found, and there are already hundreds of research, real academic peer-reviewed research articles in the last 2 years on maritime ministry. What I especially note is, in the UK, the Seafarers International Research Center, CIRC, has partnered with a US-based group, Chaplaincy Innovation Lab, to publish, I would say, at least 6 or 7 or 8 peer-reviewed academic articles specifically on seafarer chaplaincy. And these have all come out in the last 6 months. So if you'd like to see some of that research, again, it's listed in the bibliography of research. Please do go there and check that out. The final thing, as mentioned, is advocacy, and Sarah mentioned this as well. I'd like to bring up on the screen a picture of our colleague Phil Schifflin, who's the most active in these groups. Phil works for the Center for Mariner Advocacy. You might have known it, for those that perhaps haven't been as connected with ICMA, used to be known as the Center for Seafarers' Rights. You might have known Doug Stevenson, or for those with a super long memory, Paul Chapman, who was before him. There might be 1 or 2 in the room that still remember have that long memory. But this has been an area where we have been, and now looking forward, we are going to be quite active in this year. There's the formal meetings this one was at the ILO, and the other one that's a picture of at the IMO back in June. There's the formal meetings, a number of formal meetings, but also and really importantly, as our presenter also from the European Commission said yesterday, there's all sorts of informal meetings that are happening. And these are things that were prompted by the pandemic, but the pandemic has led into the vaccination task force, which we took part of, and led into a Ukraine war task force. And those informal meetings continue to meet regularly on Teams calls or on Zoom calls. And so it's important to be involved in those. On our delegations right now, the delegates is Phil Schifflin, representing ICMA, but coming from the Center for Mariner Advocacy of SCI. Ben Bailey from the Mission to Seafarers, Michelle White, who's a trustee of Sailor Society, and myself. Father Bruno Ciceri from the Stella Maris was also one of the delegates until his retirement earlier this year. Hopefully we'll have another delegate soon. This is, if you want to have I can share this as well. This is just a list of some of these resources where they're found online.